Just want to welcome everybody to Practical and Ethical AI Considerations for Litigators. Good morning to some and good afternoon to others. My name is Ari Monasin. I'm a senior executive with Steno Court Reporting, and we are a proud sponsor of today's CLE with the Beverly Hills Bar Association. At Steno, a little bit about us. We're a nationwide court reporting company, and we really try to take pride in our technology, such as our AI tool, which is called Transcript Genius, allows you really to ask anything you could think of when interrogating your transcripts. Also a nice complementary tool. Beyond technology, we take pride in providing dedicated account managers for everybody. And our average response time is 20 minutes or less to anybody across the country. We only use certified shorthand court reporters and even offer complimentary rooms for your depositions based upon availability and location. And we really just are grateful to be here today. Without further ado, I would love to introduce our speaker today, who is Mr. Joe Stevens. Joe is a consulting attorney here at Steno. He also serves as a clinical lecturer and chief public defender at Texas Tech University Law School, where he leads the only public defender office housed within a law school. And he has almost 15 years plus of experience in criminal defense and public service. Joe previously founded and directed Texas' largest rural public defender office, serving 12 county region. He also serves on the board of the Texas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association and contributes to multiple committees committed to advancing public and rural defense. At the end of today's presentation, just so you know, there will be a barcode that you can scan if you would like to learn more about Steno and our AI tool and vice versa. And without further ado, let's all please welcome Mr. Joe Stevens today.
Ari, thank you for that. And thank you all for letting me be here. I'm coming to you live from West Texas, which is, if there's an opposite of where you all might be practicing, it is the South Plains of the Texas Panhandle. But I teach at the law school here at Texas Tech, and use AI all the time in my practice, and teach with the students too. And what we're going to do here for the next hour, Ari does a wonderful job of setting up exactly what Steno does. So on top of the work that I do at the law school, I also obviously work with Steno. We are a court reporting company, and I'm really excited for you and us to really spend the next hour going through a couple of things. As someone who also, is used to CLEs and goes to CLEs, I kind of want to change this up a little bit. We're going to spend the first half of this really going through the sort of ethical side of this that'll allow you to get your hour of credit when it comes to ethics, and especially the intersection of that and AI usage. But then we're going to do an actual application on the back end. And I'm going to show you a real specialized AI tool that you can use. Everyone on here can use, regardless of practice area, regardless of what side you're on, regardless of exactly, again, the specific type of work that you do, that is there to enhance your practice. And it's a magical thing that combines, I think, everything that you're hearing about around AI right now with a practical solution. So whether you're an AI evangelizer or a skeptic or whatever it might be, the back half of this is, I think, where the magic really happens. I love leading webinars. I love CLEs. To the degree to which you want to get involved and active in the chat, please do so. I'll pay attention to it, and we can ask and answer questions throughout. But let's just jump right into it. Here's what I want to do. Everyone obviously knows now, and we hear it all the time. Obviously AI is everywhere, and you can't go to a conference, you can't sort of do anything in any area of your life right now without hearing something about the disruptive force that AI is to it. I'm not going to read all of these slides. You'll have access to the slides at the end, but I really want to spend some time on each slide, kind of focusing on one or two bullets. The first one on here really has to do with the idea of how AI actually thinks, and it does a really wonderful job of presenting as though it can think just like a human. It reasons in a way, it presents itself in a way that demonstrates that it reasons just like, a colleague might. And there is some truth to that, right? Like there's some truth to the way it presents its information and the way you can sort of engage with the information it tells you. But the thing I want to focus on this slide, because this is a question that comes up quite a bit, is like, how does AI actually even know what your question you're asking? And then how does it sort of draw on the information base that it has to tell you its answer? And it's an important question because if you don't know how it actually works, then you're not going to be using products, or you could increase the likelihood of using an AI product for its unintended purpose. And I think the most classic example of this is what we see in the headlines all the time now, with regularity, is the person who used, for example, ChatGPT to do case law research. And then ChatGPT spits out a series of cases that are either incorrectly cited, don't stand for the, proposition that the attorney is using them for, and that winds up in front of a judge, and sanctions tend to be the resulting force there. So, when we talk about AI and how it actually thinks and processes and how it sort of presents the information, we need to know that AI is really trained on a tremendous amount of information up to a fixed point in time. Based on that information, it really is a strong ability to understand and recognize patterns. Because of that, when you ask it a question, it's going to draw on that breadth of information to sort of pick up on the patterns that are associated with the question you ask it. That's what makes AI incredible at some things and less incredible at others. So, as long as we remember that as the starting point, we can really start to begin to see how transformative it can be in multiple other areas of your practice too. Let's talk about actually specific to the legal sector where we're seeing it in litigation. We're seeing it everywhere, obviously. Any product that you're using, any product that you're considering to use now, it seems, is going to have some sort of AI component to it. And having that AI component obviously matters a lot, but because those different products are going to have totally different functionalities. And knowing what the functionalities are will allow you to do two things at once. One is to decide how it could be beneficial to your practice. The second is to decide whether or not it could be beneficial to have one or two or three tools sort of working conjunctively so that you can use them together. And I think that that is a real thing that we're going to focus on here at the beginning and then show you exactly how to vet some of these products at the end. I want to show you, and for people who are skeptical about AI or people who are sitting there saying, I need to know how to use it more because it's here, or the time is now for me to understand it, but I don't know where to begin. The 5 bullets that you're seeing on this screen right here are 5 general parts of the legal sort of sector, I suppose, where AI is being a little bit disruptive. So if one of these areas of your practice, I love the transcript analysis side of it, for example. Everyone who has had a deposition or a mountain of depositions and is preparing for other depositions or for trial or for any sort of motions practice has had to dig through a tremendous amount of information. Transcript analysis tools using AI are magical at reducing the amount of time that you need to spend digging for information so that you can make all of the key points of that information, the critical moments within those depositions, searchable, findable instantaneously, and incredibly actionable. So pick an area of your practice that is causing you, I don't know, that is maybe most time intensive, and then find the appropriate tool that corresponds to it. And I think that's a good starting point for people who are wondering where to even dip their toe in the water. So, interestingly, we hear, I think, a lot of, given how powerfully disruptive the AI is itself, I think there's been a lot of sort of questions about what this means for the future of the industry. We could spend so much time just talking about that. But what I want to sort of emphasize in this is that there's nowhere that I mean, talk about this around the country. No, there's no sort of judge, there's no state bar, there's no local rules that are excited about or anticipating or suggesting that AI is here to take the jobs or really replace the roles of the minds that are actually deploying the AI itself. It's totally here right now as a practice augmenter. And I do think that there is some truth to the idea that if you're not engaging with it in some capacity, you probably are either losing business to or falling behind the curve when it comes to practitioners who are using it for in some way, shape, or form. So I like to sort of focus on that as well because uh, it can kind of dispel some of the doomsday narrative around AI. And quite frankly, I think it should get people excited about how transformative it can be today to your practice. The goal of this really is to actually not just dwell in the theory of for the next however long. It's to spend time in that, setting it up so that we can show you an AI product that you could use today, or many others, right? That you could use today that will bring some great value to your practice. Okay, let's spend the next moment actually getting specific now about the ethical considerations that we're seeing coming from California when it comes to AI usage. This is a general slide, but three things on this slide I think matter tremendously, and you'll see them reflected in the way that California has thought about AI usage and ethical AI usage for practitioners. The first is in the top left box. This idea of verification and due diligence. This might sound obvious to a lot of you, but the idea behind this is obviously AI is a product that you are leaning on to give you information. What information is the AI spitting out, and can you verify whether or not the AI is telling you credible, truthful, reliable information or not? You have got to be able to verify the output of what AI is telling you, and courts around the country, in their filings where they've called into question the ethical practice or the ethical use of AI by different practitioners, have repeatedly said that this is a lawyer problem, not an AI problem. If you go and do traditional case law research and you stumble across a case that you miscite or say stands for a different proposition than it actually does, that's a lawyer problem, not a research problem. Analogously, that's what courts are saying about AI usage. Therefore, when you're using AI, one of the critical components of it is making sure that you can verify how and easily and quickly verify that it's telling you the correct information. Again, that's theory. In about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I'm going to show you how to do that. The due diligence side of that also is sort of wrapped up in what I just said. The second part of this slide that matters a lot is the security and client confidentiality. This to me is a really interesting gray area that is being litigated around the country also. But the idea with this is you've got to be able to use a product that, generally speaking, the AI is not getting smarter based off the information that you give it. In other words, if you're putting sensitive client information into AI, you better make sure this is what state bars are telling us, and I think it's backed up by just general ethical obligations that we have to our clients that have long predated the advent of AI. This idea that you got to make sure that the AI is not retaining that information or getting smarter, getting trained off the information that you're giving it. There's ways to vet products to make sure that you can see that this is true, and then there also additionally needs to be some sort of security protocol around that. You see, for example, different levels of compliance, like HIPAA compliance or SOC 2 compliance, different elevated levels of compliance when it comes to engaging with AI itself. So those two things matter a lot. The third thing that you're going to see really reflected, not just in California, but around the country, is this idea that competency and growth when it comes to knowledge around AI and AI usage, that's going to matter a lot, right? Like, are you staying up to speed on what AI is telling, like how it's evolving, its capacities, um, you know, uh, just the evolution in regulation, the way that state bars are considering it, not just the AI itself, but maybe the way that AI use needs to be disclosed to courts or to clients or things like that. So these are the three things that we're really seeing predominate when it comes to AI ethical use of AI as it's come from the ABA down through state bars around the country. And let's jump into those. Just a quick pause. I love to keep the questions coming. I saw Jack asked a question about it, First Amendment right to use AI, even if a court or state bar bars its use. I mean, I think that is an amazing question. I'm going to answer this one sort of live right now because I don't. I mean, talk about a time in our lives where First Amendment issues are just increasingly litigated, I could see there being a component to that for sure. And I'd be interested to see how that plays out. I think another area of litigation around AI right now has to do with data itself and the discoverability of your AI usage, depending on the platform that you're using, where the information is being retained. I'm really interested to see how that's changing as well as different courts tackle it. Um, I'm going to, David, your question about transcript analysis, I'm going to answer that when we get to it. Kathleen, you're asking about Lexis Protege and the new chat function. We'll talk about that a little later. And then, oh my God, the confidentiality questions. Once we get into the product, I'll actually get into those as well. Certifications, Bindu, they're increasing, they're growing. I think that there is a gap right now. I'm going to answer this question live so that people can see it as we consider, because this really belongs, I think, more in the theoretical side of the presentation. Related to competence, are there certifications would be seeking out? There are different, I mean, at a law school now, I'm seeing AI and courses around technology really be thrust into the curriculum. That's obviously not necessarily available to us at this stage, but I do think that there are certifications you can get right now through Coursera or other online platforms. The baseline, though, that I think that state bars, and you'll see this in a couple of slides, that state bars are really calling for is just a level of competence. And we all know really what that means. I mean, competent representation means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I think if I was to sort of be sort of skeptical about that, sometimes that bar can be pretty low. But when it comes to AI usage, I think that the critical thing that we're seeing that gets people in trouble, which suggests that they're not knowing how to use it, which suggests that increased training would be better, is that they're not verifying what it's telling you. And if there's probably one thing to remember from this, it would be make sure that you verify the output of AI. But Bindu, I love that question about additional certifications. I'm going to leave the other questions open as we keep rolling along here. So keep them coming. ABA Model Rule 1.1 is something we're all familiar with. I mean, this is something that has been mirrored by a lot of state bars, and as they've sort of taken this model language and applied it to their own jurisdiction and area of operation. So this is what I just talked about. This is the obligation for lawyers to provide competent representation to clients. The language in the bullets you see is something that we've been familiar with before AI as well, right? Like this is not new. The concept of this is not new. The interesting thing about it, though, is that last year we saw that the umbrella of this rule got a little bit further widened and extended to AI usage. So AI usage now is, if you're going to be incorporating AI usage into your practice, one, it needs to be done competently. And secondly, if we're looking at the bullets down sort of underneath that, the idea of what it means to use AI in a competent way is kind of broad and nebulous, which is rather unsurprising. But what we're seeing effectively is that you got to stay up to speed on how things are changing, which means you've got to understand how the products are changing and the capacities of AI are changing so that you're using them in the right way. And again, that sounds theoretical, but once we get into a specific product, you'll be able to see how we can actually vet this specifically. And here is really the main sort of slide when it comes to the California bar and the guidance that they're giving around ethical use of generative AI. 1.1 on the left is, as you can see, rather identical to the slide before when it comes to competent representation and AI usage. You got to know what the tech is, you got to know how it functions. It doesn't necessarily mean 1.3 in the middle talks more specifically about this, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be able to sit inside a conference room with a product team and a group of engineers and explain the ins and outs of how AI actually works. But you do have to know if the thing that you're using is being deployed for the purpose that you want. If you're using CoCounsel in Westlaw to do case law research, that makes a great deal of sense. There's some really specific other prompts within CoCounsel, right? Like to do some sort of email drafting or motion drafting or document analysis. That makes it really clear that you're using it for its intended purpose. But again, the classic example of using some sort of AI product outside of Lexis or Westlaw to do case law research, that's problematic. And then if you jump over to the right sort of column here, 1.6 and 1.82, this is really interesting. This kind of contemplates internal firm policies. In other words, if you're part of a firm, does your firm have an internal policy about how it vets AI products? I've seen this across the board. Some firms sort of say, let's use it as long as it checks a bunch of compliances. Some say we're not using any AI until our internal team vets the security of it and we have a real understanding and an explicit guideline for our employees to follow when it comes to using the technology itself. So, in other state bars, New York is a little bit more comprehensive when it comes to this. There really is a strong encouragement towards, having some sort of policy around AI usage. There's also, additionally, in New York, that doesn't exist in California, to my knowledge, a real encouragement to disclose to clients, usually in the initial agreement, that AI could be used as a part of the representation. So New York considers things, other state bars consider things that you're not seeing here in California just yet. Um, and let's see. Then the last part of that I was just trying to sort of touch on here is the idea of security and confidentiality. We talked about that before. We're going to talk about that again. It's easy to vet this. And I think that as long as you're paying attention to the security protocol that comes from these AI products, that should be easy to access, should be incredibly transparent, and basically reduced to a number of basic questions that you can ask when you're vetting the product, you should be in a good spot. We're going to shift to data security and AI here. I saw a question just pop up from Chris Rose here. He says, is lawyer all law or law firm? So solos are now burdened with this. Yeah, I mean, I don't know is the short answer. I've sort of wondered about enforceability is too strong of a word here. Um, Enforceability to me, the way that this is happening is coming from AI usage that winds up leading to some sort of questionable practice that, like, generally speaking, means that AI is given misinformation that winds up in front of a court. I haven't seen a lot of like more local, let's say a client goes after a lawyer for work that they did because they weren't happy with the results. And it turns out that one of the sticking points was that this person was not happy that their lawyer used AI. So for solos, there's a couple of things that I think, like, to me, all of that is still very nebulous, and we're in the throes of that being sort of addressed. The answer to me on that front would be one of two things. One is, I don't think it really takes much, if in case you wanted to just sort of paper it up, to suggest to document the fact that internally you're going to be using AI in accordance with all of the most recent state bar rules. I mean, I don't know where that needs to live, but I think if that's an internal firm policy, which then so be it. Then that's obviously covered. I think another approach would be, I have seen people disclose this more in their initial agreements, this idea that, hey, just like before, when I was using digital case law, like Lexis or Westlaw, digitized case law databases to do things more efficiently than going to books, I might also be using AI in accordance with the ethical guidelines that are most recently promulgated. So, yeah, I think, Chris, that the encouragement here is to add another layer of burden is one word, but another layer of explicitness, if that's even a word, around how and when you're using AI. But that is as specific as it gets. Hopefully that relatively unsatisfying broad answer is somewhat satisfying. But anyway, and Cedar has just asked a question about guidance for experts on the use of AI in their reports. Amazing. We're going to talk about that on the back end of this as well, because I want to get into expert uses of AI. All right, so this AI security checklist. We've got this idea that not all AI tools are created equal. I love this idea tremendously because I actually think that, I mean, I use a lot of sort of wider, broader tool, Claude, in my personal life, like outside of work, sometimes in work. Um, Specialized tools to me are really where we're seeing a lot of incredible value add. It's this idea that we've taken the power of AI and really tailored it to a specific use, single or double, like brilliant specific use case. And I think that there's real value there. Sometimes the generalist tools do a number of things really well, and sometimes actually very, very well. But I think that specialized tools, especially for people who are just trying to sort of weave AI into specific parts of their practice, specialized tools are where I think a lot of gold actually lies. Again, you see the other bullets down here about security verification and having a smart approach to AI security. And we are going to talk more about that. And some of the questions that you're asking actually pertain to that as well. One of the easiest ways, while I'm on this, to have a smart approach to AI security is if, for example, you're using ChatGPT, different levels, your account is going to have different levels of security protocol depending on, I mean, enterprise level accounts have different levels than sort of your just free account. And so vetting that as a minimum is something that would be critical to ensuring that you have a smart approach to AI security. But again, we'll talk more about that when we get into the specific product itself. Here are two great questions to ask. We talked about Transcript Genius on the, Ari mentioned it from the jump. That's what we're going to show you at the end here. But here are two great general questions to ask that suggest that you're on the right track when it comes to vetting products, AI tools for security. One is what we talked about before. What is the AI doing with the data that you're giving it? And is there any retention whatsoever? The answer really should be no. I mean, you don't want for a whole host of reasons, right? I mean, this just goes back to ethical practice of law, confidentiality, making sure that the data that you're using in any product, even before AI, when it was your case law research, like making sure that that data is not being retained and that the product is getting smarter on the backs of what you are telling it and the information you're providing it. Then there's a flip side to this, or another side to this, which is just general security. Like, how secure is the product itself? And again, right now, I personally think from a lawyer, obviously the legal side of things, you should be using AI products that are HIPAA compliant. There's additional sort of layers of security. You see SOC 2 security more commonly in products now too. But these are the things that AI products should be very transparent and loudly transparent about, and very proud of how secure their platforms actually are. And those are two sort of just generic questions to ask. Okay, one little sort of I think sticking point, and it's not really an ethical thing. This is prompt writing. But let's kind of like understand the flow a little bit. We understand what the State Bar has told us about ethical use of AI. Now we're sort of sitting here being like, okay, let's vet the product secure, so we're in accordance with, making sure that it is secure and it's something that we can use. Okay, now we've picked our product, and now it's like it's go time, right? The prompt here is obviously like the point of engagement with the AI itself. Like, this is the thing that is going to how you engage with it, the quality of the question that you ask it, the way that you interact with it is going to be the thing that governs what kind of output you get. I think 6 months ago, this was really kind of presented as a mystifying art. Like, you've got to ask the right question. You've got to really drill in perfectly. You've got to know where to start. You've got to be as specific as possible. Some of that lingers, but as AI continues to evolve, it's also getting better at giving you answers to questions that you might also be curious about based on the question that you asked it. Some products explicitly do this. Like, if you're using Adobe and you're using the AI functionality inside Adobe, you're going to see that it'll suggest other questions for you based off the question that you ask. So this happens in a lot of places. The evolution of prompt writing means that you don't have to be so concerned about getting the question right from the jump. The thing is to just get started and then make sure that you refine and refine and refine. Ideally, you're using a product that allows you to do that. AI, I think it's at its most powerful when you have complete free reign over how you engage with it and how you can follow up with it, just the way you would a witness. Right? If you're going to ask a witness a question, you're going to ask a specific question. You're probably going to ask a follow-up question. You probably have you're not going to ask three questions in one. You're probably going to make sure it's not vague. I mean, these are the things, if you're going to give an assignment to a colleague or you're going to ask a witness a question, following those same set of rules about prompt engagement, I think is a really good idea. Daniel, you're asking what is Transcript Genius? That's going to be the practical application, the product that I'm going to show you that is it sort of reduces all of this theory here to a real life demonstration. So we'll get to that here in a second. Key elements of a prompt, just as I said, I mean, clarity, context, specificity, and output. So how clear are you with your question? What kind of additional context are you giving that question? Are you specifying the format in which you want the answer? Like this is to me, this is no different than the way that you would sort of engage with a witness and the way you would teach someone to examine a witness, right? Like that clarity does matter because the flip side is going to make things a little bit more murky or perhaps difficult to obtain the answer right away. It's not going to stop you from getting there, but it's not the ideal starting point. Sometimes being too vague, right? Like not giving the context that you need to give. You're assuming that it knows information that it doesn't, or you're just overbroad. So you ask 5 questions in one, it might answer each of those 5 questions, but because you asked 5 in one, the length, the quality, the value of each answer is a little bit more diluted. All right, so here we have a sort of a step-by-step guide that makes sense when it comes to how you actually go from what you're, the thought of a prompt to crafting one that is of a higher quality. And here's a prompt itself. This is a much more detailed prompt than I use most of the time, but this gives you a sense of how specific you can be. When people very often, when I talk to people and about AI and they'll sit there and they'll be like, can it do this? And I'm like, well, you can just ask it to do that. What if I ask it to focus on this? Well, you should ask it to focus on that. I mean, the idea is that it will respond to the information and the context and the parameters that you give it. So feel free to run wild with that. I was talking to another bar association maybe a few weeks ago, and the guy who was sort of leading that meeting was talking about how specific he was from the jump. And my approach is almost the complete opposite. I'll start broad, specifically, but broad, and then drill in just the way I would sort of flow a line of questioning with a witness. So the idea is like you don't need to hesitate to use it. You should really just jump in and just see what it tells you and let it guide you a little bit. Have a little bit of faith in that process. Daniel is asking a question about using an AI for editing a draft brief for clarity in products that are out there. I'm going to save some of the product specific questions for when I jump into the demo here in about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes. So here's a sum of the best practices for AI in legal work. The verification matters tremendously. It is there to augment your practice. Continue learning. Like these CLEs are only going to be more prevalent. They're going to be more practice area specific. They're going to be product specific. They're going to be, I mean, it's amazing to see the rapid pace of change. It's also kind of interesting to see how legislatures that traditionally move a little bit slower. I mean, in Texas, the legislature here meets every second year for 140 days. So for them to grapple with AI regulation, you can't keep a pace with the speed of innovation that the technology is actually presenting. So it's incumbent upon the practitioner to stay aware of that. And I think every single conference is going to have an ethical AI component to it from here on out. And let's end on this before I sort of stop sharing this screen and jump into another. As I said earlier, these generic products are really valuable and they can do some things really wonderfully. I love, from a practitioner's point of view, the specialized products. So Daniel's question here about using AI for editing a draft brief for clarity, what products are out there? That's actually an area where we might see a nice sort of middle ground because I think you can use generic products well as long as the security side, the security component to them has been vetted, but specialized products on that front are going to be fantastic as well. So that brings us to this practical application. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop sharing this screen for a second. And then I'm going to open up a different browser window here. And I want to get into an actual demo so that you can actually see what I have been talking about as theory for the past little bit. Let me pull this up. All right. I'm going to start sharing this. And again, this to me is where the magic really happens because theory is one thing, but practical application is another. So we've got 25 minutes, maybe a little bit more, depending on how long we go on this. Keep your questions coming. I'm going to try and answer them as I feel like they really slot into this side of the presentation. Okay. All the theory basically suggested up front that ethical use of AI, first and foremost, requires that you can ensure that the product you're using is secure. I'm showing you now, Daniel, this is your question earlier. You asked, what is transcript genius? This is what I'm about to show you. But let's use transcript genius as a lens through which we can sort of explore the first 30 minutes of what I just talked about. We're looking at the security side of transcript genius, and you're seeing up front that there is some real proud broadcasting about the security of the product itself. Is there data retention? No, there isn't. Is there security? What are the levels of security? This is what the levels of security are. We meet heightened levels of SOC 2 compliance, of HIPAA standards as well. And you can click further into the privacy policy. You can see the different compliances over here. In this case, you're seeing up to the minute different levels of controls and security controls that are monitored by a third party. So you can really dig into and request actually access to a deeper understanding of the controls so that you, or if you're part of a larger firm, can vet the security of the product. Now, this to me checks the box as a practitioner of making sure that you're using a secure product. Like, this is the presentation of how they are sort of saying the security of their product is. And this is, I think, incredibly thorough when it comes to the different reporting that you have access to, the different controls that you can sort of request access to, different organizational infrastructure security. It's amazing. In my opinion, box has been checked. Now it comes time to actually engage with the product itself. So I'm clicking into Transcript Genius. As Ari said from the jump, Transcript Genius is one of the tech pieces that Steno offers as a part of their court reporting services. So it is a court reporting company at its core that does a number of things tech-wise to reduce the friction of the deposition booking and taking, and then subsequently on the back end analyzing process, right? So a component of this is the AI itself. That's what Transcript Genius is, and that's what we're going to show you. Transcript Genius, when you click into it, you're seeing immediately a list of the sort of unfiltered transcripts that have arrived automatically at this dashboard because you have booked the job through Steno. So what that means, and I say that, that means that it's coming to this dashboard in the optimal form for AI to engage with, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to filter out by case because I want to know which cases have been actually are relevant to this one case itself. And I'm going to click into one of the transcripts associated with this case. When I do that, you see that there is a transcript on the right side and then some suggested questions on the left. This to me is actually an optimal way to use AI because what you're having is the information that you're analyzing on the same screen as the questions and answers you're going to get. The questions here are suggestive, right? You're not locked into these questions, but if I click into one, you're going to see that in real time, it's going to consider a couple hundred pages of transcript and do what I asked it to do, which is generate a full-length transcript summary and with page and line numbers. AI is masterful at churning out sort of narrative summaries and giving you the information. But if you popped this question with this document into ChatGPT, first of all, there'd be some security concerns around that, depending on the level of sort of access, your account level, and the security compliance and standards that go along with that account level. Secondly, you're going to have a different process of verification of the answers. So we've vetted the product for security. Now what we're doing is complying with the other critical component of, and I'm not sure how to say your name, Uduak. I'm not sure if that's correct. But you're saying California does not yet have a binding professional conduct rule specifically on AI usage. Yeah, absolutely, right? So this is in accordance with what they're suggesting and recommending for how AI should be used. Verification matters. So next to every single statement of fact associated with this summary, you're going to see that there's a hyperlinked reference to the source material. So you can click in and on the same page, you're looking at what it told you, that the witness was married to this person and this was their wedding date. You can click in, you can see that on page 10, line 14 through 17, which is exactly where we are, the information has now been highlighted so you can verify that what it's telling you is true and correct. This to me is not only this obviously checks the verification box. From a practitioner's point of view, when it comes to AI usage, this is optimal because what I have been given now is something dynamic and not static. This has not been given to me, and now I just have to trust it and then verify on my own. it's given to me in a way that I can dynamically verify it. It's thorough, it's still writing its answer. And let's say the thing that I was actually most curious about wasn't, let's go to the top of the answer again, right? I don't, background information is great. I need to know that. Maybe what I actually really want out of this transcript is a real hyper focus on the incident that was at issue in this case itself. So now, because it's not a static presentation, because I can actually subsequently engage with it, I can drill into it more and more and more. So if I just ask it to tell me more about the incident itself, and then also give me a timeline of events in table format, then this is what I love. Like, I want you to think about this as slowly ramping up the functionality of being able to use an AI product thoughtfully, right? Summaries are wonderful because obviously it is exactly what we said. Like, it's condensing this massive document into a much shorter version with all the key details there. Data extraction is a really powerful use of AI as well. And in this case, I've asked it now to just focus on one area of the transcript and then subsequently give me some more data in a more palatable format. Again, in this case, it was just a timeline of events, a sequence. What did this witness testify to across the course of this deposition when it came to how things played out? And then make sure that you cross reference exactly what parts of the transcript it's getting its information from. The thing I love about this is it's not going to tell you what information that doesn't exist. So here we've got that on this day, 40 to 60 minutes later, this is the thing that happened, and this is the result of the thing that happened. And we can verify that that's exactly what the transcript is telling us. So again, it's dynamic. It allows you to follow up. It really allows you to sort of drill into it and make sure that you have you can get the information that you want. You're not being delivered something that might be useful, but then you can't follow up on. You have complete control over how you prep for the next deposition, the information you get out of depositions, how you prep for your trial, how you prep for your next hearing, et cetera, et cetera. Christopher asked another question. I'm going to answer this live. So is it included in the base cost or extra? Steno has built, you pay for the transcript, you pay for the court reporting. This, everything you're seeing now, everything you're about to see, does not come at any additional cost. So when it comes to being able to engage with this technology and the AI itself, you can, it's not only a secure product, but you can engage with it time and time and time again with no limit. At no additional cost. This is part of what makes, I think, this product really compelling, is that you're never in the middle of prepping for something and asking follow-up questions and then realizing that you have to change a subscription or anything like that. That doesn't happen. Use this because this, we believe that obviously the AI is incredibly valuable. I think I answered that live. So I'm going to be done answering that live now. So that is single transcript interrogation, right? I mean, think of the use cases here. Did this witness contradict themselves? Did this witness make any key admissions? Did this witness deflect responsibility in any way, shape, or form? If so, who did they deflect responsibility to? Who else should I consider deposing based off this? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is a single transcript interrogation. I'm going to go back to this case, though, because what I want to do is I want to show you that if I pick multiple transcripts associated with this case, this is where the value really is added, right? Like now, as we ramp up, it's not just data extraction on a single transcript. It's not a summary that's being given to you on a transcript that you can't follow up on. This is now where you can sit there and you can say, did these witnesses ever contradict each other? And now I'm going to violate all of the rules that I just told you. If so, where, let's say when, I don't know, and how? And then I'm going to just kind of compound this question and say, also give me a list of questions to challenge their credibility at trial. Okay. I would never compound this question if I was just doing this by myself. But I want you to sort of see in the time that we have together that it can really tackle these more nuanced things as well. So we're not just assessing it for data extraction now. We're really assessing it for witness contradiction. And it's going to now triple the amount of transcript it's interrogating. It's looking for nuances in where people memory gaps and things like that. Obviously, I'm also asking it basically now to assess all of these witnesses and give me a line of questioning I can ask them that will really reflect challenging their credibility on these issues. As it writes this answer, a couple of things. This is sort of party agnostic. Plaintiff, defendant, criminal, civil, like it doesn't matter. You can deploy this however you like. You might want to know this on the defense side because you want to see if there might be weaknesses in your case. I mean, same on the plaintiff's. Like it doesn't matter. You can sort of assign it a role. How would opposing counsel consider the strengths and weaknesses of my case? What line of questioning should I anticipate opposing counsel would ask these three witnesses based on the weakness in their testimony? And you're seeing again that it's giving you this information. It's not static, it's dynamic. You could sit there and be like, oh, now what I want to do is just focus on this one witness and give me 50 questions that I can ask that really flow a logical progression that will allow me to get to this point where this witness acknowledges this one weakness, whatever it might be. So as long as your first prompt is not your last, which Transcript Genius allows you to do really well, you're going to be golden. This is where, again, multiple transcript interrogation. I want to show one more thing, and then I want to answer people's questions. Okay, let me go back to this environment, and I'm going to pick a different case because someone asked a question about exhibits. And I'm going to kind of filter out here, and let's pick a case that I know has, let's do this. A witness, um, let's see. I want to take let's take another witness here. And there should be, maybe it's still in here, maybe it's not, but you'll see that I think I'm just going to use these two. There's a complaint that's not associated with this case, but if I uploaded the complaint in here as well, what you'd see is I could run a prompt that is fantastic. Like I could run this prompt. I'm going to copy and paste it so everyone can see. I just wrote this one up in advance because I was using it this morning on a different case. If I say, with these two depositions and the complaint, create a chart showing the complaint allegation, the supporting testimony, the contradicting testimony, and gaps in evidence, it's going to churn out an answer that's going to map every single allegation of the complaint against all of the supporting testimony, any contradicting testimony, and some of the gaps that exist in the evidence. I don't have the actual complaint for this case uploaded in a I have it on another case, but I can't publicly demo that case. But the idea is, to the question, Jack, that you asked, can you load in exhibits too? Transcript Genius is really good at understanding, because you can upload PDFs, and I'm going to actually show you this right now. You can upload the transcripts here in text or PDF format, and it's going to understand what those are. So it'll understand, and it'll obviously recognize, because of the format, that an expert's report is not a transcript, but an expert report in conjunction with the expert's testimony. They'll be able to map all of the sort of the weak spots, the similarities, the points of challenge. You can obviously make it understand that. So, and Transcript Genius is good at knowing the differences there. So yeah, it recognizes different documents, motions, motions for summary judgment, hearings on motions for summary judgment. It doesn't just have to be a transcript. Quite frankly, it was built for that, right? Like the critical point of engagement, because we are a court reporting company, was taking the transcript and making it actionable. But it's getting AI, as it continues to evolve, understands the different document types and understands that a trial has a different flow than a hearing. A trial has a different flow than a deposition, or maybe an emotions argument before the court. So if you OCR that PDF and you want to put it in here, I've used many different documents in here. And as Transcript Genius continues to evolve, uh, it's as AI continues to evolve, the capacity gets more and more robust. When you upload through Transcript Genius, I'm going to go back to this. If you want to upload, you can upload it right here. And again, no additional cost. Like you have other transcripts, you have other documents. Like you put it in here, but you want to make sure this allows you to assign it to a case, associate it with a case, and then you can run an interrogation that isn't just a deposition or multiple depositions. It's the deposition plus other pieces of discovery that might be relevant to the question that you're trying to ask it. Um, okay. Um, it's 12:50, and so I'm going to keep this screen open. I want to show a couple more things. You can take the output here and you can copy and paste it, put it in whatever document that you are building to create, because once we close out of here, again, security and making sure that we are not, there's no retention of the data, especially the AI is not retaining the data, it's gone. So build your trial prep, your hearing prep notebook. I use this over the weekend to build about a 100-page anticipated cross of a witness. Like it's incredible. You can use this, do this in the course of an afternoon, take all the information with you very easily, so that you hang on to it. Anyway, that's one thing I really wanted to show. Now I really want to kind of pivot into some of these questions. I'm going to start from the top. David, the tech questions. What is the context window size for transcript analysis? David is basically asking where yeah. How much can this do at once? There's AI limitations. So any product that's using AI that's built on the back of another AI vendor, in this case, we use Claude, Anthropic. We use Anthropic's most recent AI product. There are limitations. Like AI can't take 100% of all of the things associated with a case and then give you an answer. It's going to be too much. The context is too great. So Transcript Genius is built with the idea that we prioritize accuracy. So we take the context window of Claude and basically we say this can handle about 500 pages at once. And it's a volume thing. Maybe if there's 10 documents, 10, which I've done before, 20 that are much smaller in size, it can sort of understand that. But the volume, total volume of a single interrogation is about 500 pages. Um, there's so many ways to work around that too. But as a practitioner, the greatest value AI can bring me is reliability. And so if I'm doing, I sometimes will have multiple interrogations running at once based on the answers that it gives. And I can show you how to do that, David. At the end of this, I'm gonna pop my information in the chat so that you can reach out to me directly. But that's the limitation, and that's partially an AI limitation, and that's our internal engineering team making sure that the answer it gives you is quality. So you'll know when it's giving you when you overload it and it can't give you when you've exceeded the capacity, right? Kathleen, you asked about Lexis Protege and the chat function. I use Westlaw mostly and co-counsel, so I don't really know about the chat function in there. I'm going to kick that around. Actually, through the school, my university, I'm going to be working with a Lexis rep next week. So if you want to reach out with me to me directly, I can follow up with you on that next week. Joseph, confidentialities. Is it sufficient we do not input client names? I think that checks a huge box. But again, it depends on what you're using the AI for. Anonymizing things and redacting information is really important and can be really important. I prefer not to take that step. I prefer to have this tool and product secure enough for me to engage with it the way that I would a colleague. But that definitely goes a long way in obviously respecting client confidentiality. Let's see. I'm going to bounce around here. Some of the easier questions. Bindu, if we toggle off on allowing the AI to train based off our inputs, does that satisfy? I would guess so, but again, I'm trying to think of a product that you're talking about here. I prefer to go the extra mile and use a product that ensures that there's no risk of that from the outset. And so I've actually never seen the toggle off. When it comes to Transcript Genius, that doesn't exist. Other products certainly will provide that capacity, but I would definitely make sure that if you're using a product and it has the option for you not to, for the AI to get smarter based off the client information and what you're putting into it, then I would definitely encourage that. Daniel, you asked this question about drafting a brief for editing a draft brief for clarity. You can use a general tool for that. Now, if you want to make sure that things are redacted, if there's no security or not an up to snuff security, but you can use even Transcript Genius for that. Like I would put a copy of, I would ask it. for the information that you want to include in that brief in a format that's copy and pastable into your brief. And then once you've got it into a spot that you like, I would put it back in here and say, what do you think about this? Like, where can I change? What changes would you make? Where can I tighten this up? Where to make sure it's not repetitive? Make it really thorough. What else am I missing? If you were opposing counsel, how would you poke holes in? Like whatever. So this is where, to me, a good interactive AI product allows you to use it to get the information, make the information actionable, then float it right back to the AI itself and ask for feedback. So I love that use case. And I think you can use a number of AI products to get there, including the one that I just showed you. This is a wonderful question and a thought. And this is, I think, a really important piece of information I just want to highlight. And I love this idea of treating AI like social media, knowing the settings. I mean, yeah, if you're using tech, you got to understand this in your practice. You got to understand the security side of it. And even though there aren't binding, as you said, professional conduct rules through the California State Bar, there are notes of encouragement. And you're seeing, if you really want to, any sort of motions for sanctions will reflect exactly where the lawyer fell short and what they're going to have to sort of demonstrate and what the court is concerned about their AI usage if it gets that far. So we get a sense of how these regulatory bodies are considering it and also courts themselves. Jack, can you load in all exhibits too? I think I showed you that a second ago. Yes and no. Yes. I mean, as long as you have an OCR PDF, put it in there and see what, but it's not going to be able to take your entire case file and interrogate it at once. There has to be some thought into how it's deployed. But this is built for transcript analysis. And then because AI is what AI is, it has a really deep recognition that other documents are not transcripts and how they all relate to each other. The citation format will look different because obviously not everything has page line citations the way a transcript does. But yeah, I mean, people upload other documents into it all the time, and I certainly do. And over time, it's only going to get stronger and stronger. You just have to realize this was built for transcripts. Here's another question. In a version of Transcript Genius included in real time during depots, yeah, we don't do, Transcript Genius is not a real time product. Like that's not the strength of this. The strength of this is in the prep around your hearing, after your hearing, the same day. Take your rough draft if you can get it that day, put it in here, ask questions. But real-time transcription and digital transcription during a hearing, that's not something that Transcript Genius does. This allows you to be much more prepared for the hearing, take the information from the hearing afterwards or during or at a lunch break or at the end of the day and put it in here. But this is designed for you to actually have a copy of the transcript on hand. Heather, can you put all your complaint documents, the answer and motions into Steno and analysis before or after deposition transcripts? Yes, do it all. That's perfect. The more context it has, the better. Ask away. That is a great use case. And again, the upload function and the prompts themselves aren't going to cost you anything extra. So do that for sure. Can ChatGPT be used ethically? Oh my goodness, this is an amazing question. I feel like we could get really philosophical here. Yes. I mean, I guess a bigger question is like, can AI in general be used ethically? I suppose yes. The evolving standards of the practice around what ethical is with AI. I think your real question, Bertram, if I or that I want to answer, and I think you're getting at is, is it ethical in terms of the compliance and the security that a lawyer should be engaging with tech? And the answer is yes. You just have to have a heightened account level, and sometimes that can be, I don't actually know off the top of my head how much those accounts cost and what those subscriptions are. I don't use ChatGPT very commonly. Claude I use, it's a personal preference. The most recent models especially really are, I found to be really good when it comes to legal nuance. So I do know that their heightened security as you pay for different levels of access and different subscription levels. It comes with different security levels as well. So I can't really speak to ChatGPT. Luke, this is just what I'm talking about. Yeah, there's a ton of there's sanctions left and right. I mean, courts around the country are sanctioning lawyers who are not using AI correctly. Verify the security, verify the output, and make sure that before you put it in a court pleading, you can verify that everything inside it is what it's accurate, right? And then Jack, you're asking if Transcript Genius wipes out all these extensive lit management systems. It's not designed to be your case management. It's not designed to replace case law research. This is a specialized product, right? This is designed to be something that if you use one of the Steno, like if you book a job through Steno, you have access to all of this that allows you to interact with your deposition and associated documents that are relate to your case really well. So, and at no additional cost. So to me, a lot of these products can actually exist conjunctively. Ask it to give you, legal research terms that you can use in Westlaw or Lexis in different formats. And then those two things kind of are married nicely. Like the different products have different strengths. The industry is probably going to consolidate, I mean, to some degree, but for right now, these specialized products really can occupy a nice role. So if you're booking a deposition and you decide to use Steno, this is just part of the suite of technology that you get. Joseph is asking a question about cost. Joseph, I really want you to reach out so we can kind of talk about this offline. What you saw today isn't costing you anything additional. It's basically, book a job through Steno at in a competitive price to how you would be getting a deposition transcribed, and then you get this on the back end. But let's talk about that offline, Joseph, and I'll make sure that you follow up on. I would follow up on that. And I just see, how do you reach out? I don't know if we can put a contact in the chat. Maybe I can do this. I'm just going to put my email in the chat. And I don't know if this can be shared more broadly, but this is my email. Maybe someone else can share this, but we'll put that in the chat, Joseph, so you can get an answer to that question. It's the top of the hour, and I understand that this was billed for an hour. I think that there's credit adjustable. So I'm going to hang on until we can ramp it up a little bit. I'm going to answer all these questions because they're good ones. So feel free to keep the questions coming. And I'm going to go back to Cedar. What is the best practices for providing guidance to experts on the use of AI in their reports? I just think disclosure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if you're letting people know that you're using AI, the expectation is that it's augmenting something, right? Like I used AI to get something transcribed, and I just wanted to make sure that we were very forthright that AI was used in this transcription. And then there was a spot for opposing counsel at this hearing to question about AI usage. And so disclosure is the key. Where people get in trouble, I think, is where they pretend that they're not using it, and then it's clear that they have been, and now sort of the credibility of the analysis falls apart. So disclosure, I think, is the only way forward. And then the question becomes, how is that sort of assessed if that's ever challenged? But that's what people are challenging now more than ever. And as long as you're using a credible product that has security, make sure that the person who's testifying has verified the output of that, and in their experience and training, it's accurate. Like I don't think that I don't think there's a playbook outside of that, but I think it's a really good question. How about evidence that are AI generated, like voicemail and videos and photos? I mean, there's so many. That's a great question, Nicole. I kind of think I was touching on that a second ago. I think that there's authentication issues potentially. I mean, there's got to be ways. I mean, in Texas, once you get up into, rules of evidence 900 and above, we're talking about authentication. It hasn't been litigated in a way that I know of just yet, in a way that's been binding. But I would be challenging, if I'm trying to keep it out, I suppose, the authentication of them. How do you authenticate this? And that would be an interesting process. I think if you are in support of authenticating them and you are the sort of introducing party who is trying to introduce evidence that has been AI generated, again, it boils down to disclosure. AI existed before, like, we're the chat GPT, like we've been discussing this in different ways for a while. And I do think that authentication is possible. So is challenging the authentication, but this is really ripe for litigation right now. And I haven't seen anything, granted, my eyes are really focused in Texas because that's where I practice. I haven't seen anything move the needle on that outside of just the authentication side of it. So, well, let's see. Can Steno be integrated with Zoom AI Companion? Yeah, well, so Steno has a Zoom app in the App Store that is the place that you would take your deposition virtually, and this allows you to, annotate all your exhibits, load them up in advance so that you have them right there for you to introduce. And it's built again as a digital banker's box that is designed to take virtual depositions swimmingly, and so that product is part of the suite of products that Steno, obviously not showing that because there's no real AI component to that. But yeah, the Zoom app is fantastic. Yes, Joseph. My email is joe.stevens@steno.com. joe.stephens@steno.com. If someone a host could put that in the chat, I don't know, then go for it. But otherwise, uh, all right. Chat is closed. Thanking you here. Great. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Um, wow, Luke, this is a huge question. What do you make of the recent book? If anyone builds it, everyone dies. I that I don't even know. I didn't know that was a book. If that is a book, that's amazing. I'm scared. I'm an AI user and evangelizer in my practice, but obviously the larger repercussions are I don't even know. But it does. There's a scary side of it. So if you have my email and you want to chat about that, I'd be down to have that conversation. Last question that I've got in here. I know that sort of we're coming up on the end. Confidentiality. My subscription of any of these claims to be private, edits, letter writing, and briefing will, but how safe if I'm putting in clients' names and scary or still facts? Yeah. You know, the only thing you have to go off is the way that these providers are claiming that their security holds up. I mean, and think of it outside the legal context. Like when you're logging on and you're on a bank app in your phone, and it's supposedly this like very isolated, encrypted engagement, and there's no sort of lingering record of, to some degree, there's some trust that goes into that. I don't know. I mean, beyond what they're presenting, it's hard to truly vet. And so I think you're kind of drilling in, Christine, to something that also occupies space in my head, which is how are these things going to be litigated? When Snapchat says that things disappear and then subpoenas go out to Snapchat and suddenly they're not gone, what does that mean? I mean, so I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's a brilliant question, and it's one that gives me pause, and maybe Luke pause as well from the substance of that book that we was just talking about. But that's all I really know how to answer on that front is there is a little bit of faith, which is a weird thing to say, especially in a world where we need to be a little bit more skeptical, that the way that they're presenting the security actually is certifiable and true and honest and correct. But I wonder how that is going to be litigated, and I think that the next 6 months, a year, are going to be really enlightening on that front. All right, guys. That comes to the end here. I'm going to go back to one thing. I'm going to share one more QR code for everyone because I want people to be able to scan it. This is going to give you information, how to get in touch with me. And if you have any other questions, so let's go to this right now. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. And thank you all for joining today. This has been a delight to actually share some space and time with you. And if I can ever be of help, scan this barcode, learn more about getting in touch with us, ask away. Ari's email is on this screen too. So you'll be able to reach out that way as well. I think that covers it. Let me make sure. Christine, thank you. I appreciate your feedback.
This concludes today's presentation. Thank you so much, Joe, for your time, and thank you to our audience. Have a great day, everybody.